Hello, Kevin Furman here. Welcome. This is the fourth installment of this month's book of the month for E3LC. And if you happen to stumble upon this first for some reason, E3LC is name of this is sort of the acronym for my business, which is the three E's in leadership training and coaching that I do. And those are three E's are effective with people, efficient with things, and encouraging with myself. So that's the umbrella of which I use to impart ideas and concepts that have helped me throughout my career and careers, my adult life, and what I've done to create a life that I'm interested in living. And I've got new goals I've set recently. I'm gonna start reaching for even bigger things. And so we're gonna talk about a book that has some tips. I can't say that I use all of these all the time, nor do I think even the guy who wrote the book, David Horsager, I don't think he intends for everyone to do everything. He just said these have been helpful for me. I read the book a few times, and I figured it would be good to use it in the series this month. It's one of the months that I'm doing efficient with things. So this is called the Daily Edge. Right, here's the book. Simple strategies to increase efficiency and make an impact every day. So even uses the word efficiency in here, and a lot of them are a kind of a to-do kind of thing. And he's got a business, I think, kind of mainly in a business setting, a different, a typical corporate setting. But I think that a lot of it applies to people like myself who have been self-employed their whole life and have ventured off and built their own career their own way. Um, it has its own thing, and yet there are a lot of similarities between those two when you pare it down to like a day-to-day activity. So anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Kind of want to jump into the book. I think I may have mentioned that there's 31 tips. There's actually 35. I think I got it from the Everyday. I think that's what got stuck in my head. And when I read through the book the first time, I was just looking at it in chunks, and somehow I got the 31 in my head. I apologize. Totally bailed on the whole thing of, I don't know, checking my work, but which would be a tip, I guess. Check your work, right? Anyway, so so I'm finishing up the book. So we're actually going to do tips 25 through 35, and so I got to go kind of quick. I don't want to keep you too long. But I do want to run through these. Some of them are pretty short. They're pretty self-explanatory even by the title, but I'll add a little bit of detail here and there. But I want to wrap this up, and then we'll talk about next month. Next month we're going to move to another book in Efficient with Things, part of the E3. So I'll announce that at the end here. All right, let's jump in. Tip 25 is called shortcuts, and he's talking mainly about your computer, right? So the whole like Control C, Control Z, that kind of stuff. But he says, look, there's a lot more to it than just copy paste, and he's right. There's plenty of things, and these days, you even have the ability on many computers to even dabble slash get good at writing scripts. So you can have your computer do certain actions every time you do a keystroke, right? Or if you select that script. I'm not going to go too far down that road because not everybody wants to do that, and I certainly am not somebody who does that all day long. I'm not a computer programmer. I was thinking about doing that early on in my life, but I changed my mind and moved on to two other things. But my mindset has it kind of stayed in there. I do kind of have the engineering kind of thinking in my brain, and so that when I dabble in that realm, as long as I don't try to go too far and like create a whole new program or something, but if I'm just trying to get a program to do a certain task over and over, I find that interesting. I like to try to figure that out. I'm not a program in the sense I'd like to get go down 20 levels deep to figure out how to do a thing, but I don't mind like trying to figure out how to make spreadsheets be automated, things like that. So I've certainly done that, and I've delved pretty far into it, and I like doing that to some degree. Now, I don't think that's true for everybody, and he's not really talking about that in this chapter. He's just saying, look, there are shortcuts that are built into your computer. If you aren't comfortable with figuring it out or how to use them, there are experts around. And he says, look, just go find a colleague or find somebody who's just good at that, right? Or a college student, or a friend of a friend or something, right? Distant relative. Maybe somebody's just really good at that. And you can say, look, I'm trying to increase my efficiency with my computer. Tell me about the shortcuts. Let's just walk through them. Which ones do you find most useful? Which ones are clunky? Which ones are great? Which ones are horrible? Whatever, right? So you just ask. So that one's, just take the time to just figure that out. And then he talks about, make a list. So there are a lot of them. You can actually make a large list of shortcuts. It'll be hard to memorize all of them right away. So just make a list, put it up next to you, make a note and put them near your desk so you can just refer to it when you need to do a certain task. There are certain programs that I use that allow me to write a script, if you will, and so I'll do that if I'm setting up a document and I want certain parts of that document to be the same every time, but it's not a default thing that I can just have the computer do it automatically. I can do a few keystrokes and get what I want it to be in the template that I want and not have to recreate that every time. So it does save me a lot of time. So I do use this one quite a bit in certain programs for sure. Okay, tip 26 is don't go gadget. And I think he's referring to go gadget, right? So he's trying to be clever here about that. But, notwithstanding the late 80s, early 90s cartoon, he's talking mostly about technology, right? New phones, new tablets, new computers, new this, new that, right? It's technology, especially. I mean, even he wrote this book a little bit ago, and now things are just accelerating at such a pace. A computer gets outdated almost the moment you buy it. It's almost behind. So I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. I think the envelope still has not been pushed to its max. So that means that things are going to keep just spinning out super fast. And if you want to try to keep up, that's great. Just have a lot of money on hand because it's going to be real expensive to do it. But it's not necessarily have the latest thing every single time. All that. I certainly don't follow that by any stretch. Um, I do that with like software updates. I try to keep update with most of those, if not all of them, because that tends to make things work more efficiently with everything else. But as far as the actual hardware, the computer, the phone, the whatever, I try to hold on to what I've got as long as I can, take care of my equipment, make it last as long as I can. When it starts to cut in my productivity, then I invest, right? But when it's working and I don't feel hampered by it, there's no need to get a new one just to get a new one. And that's his main point is it really going to help you? Is it really going to forward your productivity, or is it just going to be a change just for change sake? And is that worth the $800, $2,000, whatever amount of money it's going to take to make that change? Are you really going to increase your productivity to pay for it? You might. I don't know. It's your position. It's your situation. But he just says be mindful of that. So just good tip, right? So don't just get all whatever. The next one seems to be similar, but it actually he's talking about something else. And tip 27 is don't get hooked. And he's talking about watching TV. That's his main thing about this chapter is, and he throws a couple stats out, but just watching TV is a big, well, in today's vernacular, a big time suck, right? And there's some great things that are worthy of watching on TV. There are things you can learn from that medium. There's also a vast amount of things that are not going to enhance your life. They are not going to forward your goals in any way, stretch, or any part of your imagination. Sorry. But there are times when you do need to just stop doing, being intense and just doing everything. You just need to stop and be entertained, right? There's nothing wrong with taking time out, but it doesn't have to be 6 hours, right? It can be 15 minutes, especially now. Well, here, okay, I'm gonna tip my hat here. I don't really watch TV. I now have shifted everything over to online. I search the content I want. I do have some streaming services, but I don't sit and nor do I just turn on just the TV, like airwaves TV, right? Just broadcast TV. I haven't for many, many years. And that to some people when I say that, I'm pretty sure it still is kind of striking. Like how do you keep up with what's going on? Don't you watch the news? You know, don't you care about this or that? And well, on that last one, no, I really don't care about much of it. I did when I was younger. I watched a lot of TV, and that was just kind of my escape, just escape from circumstances. My way to just kind of get away from what was going on around me, to just kind of let go of all that and you know, kind of dream and think of how life could be, so to speak. Now, unfortunately, Hollywood skews a lot of things, so I had to like reprogram a lot of my thinking. It didn't take forever or anything, but just you know, I do realize that that did skew some things about how I see. So anyway, his whole point is just you know, don't get hooked. And a couple things about that I think is good is and you know, I heard somebody else. This is not in the book, but I heard somebody else talk about. Well, you know, look, if you really do want to cut that down, here's a crazy idea: give your remote to your neighbor, and when you want to watch TV, you have to go borrow your remote back, so to speak, right, or go get it. That's pretty radical, but it definitely cuts in, right? Okay, so there's that. The back to the book, his tips are you know make it harder to watch, make it inconvenient is really kind of his thing. He didn't talk about what I just did, but and then find other things to do. Yeah, do something else. Do some activity. Find a new hobby. Do something more interesting. Like don't just sit there. Actually do something. And then his last tip in the book chapter is go to bed. Right. So instead of staying up late, just sitting there and watching and blah, you know, knock yourself out, just go to bed. I mean, if you're just going to sit there and do nothing, you might as well get rest and be rested for the next day. I find it just better to sit and get just attack my projects. And if I want, okay, fine, I'll take a break and I'll play a game, or I will just watch something, you know, online, or I'll read a book, right? Read a book like this. I mean, I do other things. There's been so much more that I've done outside of just watching TV. So, and I do. There's times when on the streaming, I'll binge, right? I'm human, but I try to keep it down to a minimum. I don't do it every day. I don't. I mean, not even a week. I don't know. It's just random. It's very random for me. So anyway, it's a really good tip, and luckily that's one I took on years and years ago, and I'm very thankful that I have. So certainly I'm aware of what's going on in the world. I'm not out of touch. If things are going on, you'll hear about it. We're so connected. There's no way you're going to miss something important. All right, tip 28, optimize. Okay, this sort of reminds me of the previous one of like, you know, shortcuts, optimize. They're very similar. He's, what he's trying to get at is back up your computer. That's just make sure your technology is working at its optimal speed. So get rid of clutter, get rid of old files, clean out your email, actually delete the trash in your email, and not just delete, you know, not just put them in the trash, but actually delete them, because your computer stores them until they actually get deleted. So things like that, files you don't need, get rid of them. Things you'll never use again, get rid of it. Apps that are on there, I think I got to go back and clean my computer again. Some apps on there that just they don't even work on the new update of my software. So well, I guess I don't need them anymore, right? So there's that. So just make sure your computer's clean, it's working at an optimum pace, you're backing it up, all that stuff. Tip 29, bundle. Okay, now he's talking about time bundling and doing like activities together. And so his big thing are, let's see, his first thing, start with the obvious: phone calls, emails, and paperwork. So those are things that you got to sit your desk and just do, right? So just do them together, like do those in the same time frame. Take a 3 hour block and handle all this stuff for the week, if that's possible, or do 10 minutes a day, half an hour a day. It all depends on your situation, right? So if you have X amount of hours, divide that by 5. That's how many hours a day you got to sit down and do your email, your paperwork, and your phone calls. Um, you know, just very simple. It's not complicated. Most people just don't. I think they just get kind of swept up in the, oh, this fire, I got to put this out, now I got to put that out, now I got to sit down and do my paperwork, and they just get just like, oh, it's just never ending. Well, if you block out time and just say, no, I am doing this at this time, all the rest of it can wait. Now, if a real fire does come up, I don't mean literally, but if something really does come up that's super crazy, okay, fine, handle it, right? But generally speaking, set aside that time, and that is your time. It's your time to handle that stuff. So there's that. And then along that, I just kind of talking about this, but he says set a time limit, right? So you say for this hour, I'm doing X and that's it. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not going to stop until that time is up. And that'll actually help speed the process up. Because if you know this is my only time to get it done, your brain will actually kick in and give you more focus, so to speak. It'll help you handle those things more quickly and more efficiently. Um, he says, stay in your seat, right? So when you're doing this activity, say, I'm doing this. So do it, right? Don't get up and get a cup of coffee. Don't, you know, take a break. This and that. Set a time where you can just sit down and get it done. Then when you're done, take that break, take the walk, move around, clear your head, whatever, right? And then his last thing in here is have a meeting day if possible, right? So, do all your meetings in one day rather than spreading them out and interrupting the flow of what you got going on. Just say, all right, if I got to do 3 meetings a week, Tuesday's my day, Friday's my day, Monday's my day, whatever. Pick a day that makes sense for your industry, your situation, your business, and just do it that way. Now, I tend to not have regular meetings in my business. I have regular clients schedule meetings, and those are set time every day, every week. So it's a little bit different. Like I'm actually interacting with my customers, my clients, not just me sitting and doing paperwork. So mine's a little bit different, and yours might be too. But if you can, right, bundle those up. All right, moving on. Tip 30, get unstuck. So here he's talking about like if you're taking on a huge project and you're feeling like, oh man, you're getting overwhelmed, right? He's kind of talking about like the overwhelmed sensation of like, oh, I can't do this. I don't know if this is gonna get done. I'm not even sure it's possible. Like that whole thing. So he says, okay, so I'm just gonna get to it. So getting unstuck is this. So everybody gets stuck is one of his key statements he makes. Is like everybody gets stuck. The thing is just get unstuck, right? And here's how you do it. Don't procrastinate. Just start. Right? Just start. Don't think about the perfect thing to do. Don't think about the most efficient thing to do at the beginning. Just start. Get it going. Get the ball rolling, right? And then we can get some momentum on making things happen. And then if that even seems kind of like, well, yeah, okay, I would, but he says start anywhere. Just start somewhere, even if it's a remote part of the thing. At least that might give you a new perspective on what is the best way to actually take on the big chunk of it, or to start when you start again, where to actually start. So just starting anywhere can give you a good perspective on the whole picture. Do small pieces, right? So again, you're kind of stuck in, I don't know if just do tiny things, get something crossed off on it so at least your brain can go, okay, well, at least I've started. Maybe I can take on this next thing. Do something terrible is his next thing. And what he means is just give yourself permission to fail at something, try it. If it doesn't work out, you can redo it. But if you really are stuck and you can't do anything, just, okay, then do something horribly. And then, if needed, go back and fix it. And for me personally, that actually fits a lot in when I'm doing more creative things. If I'm in the music realm, that's part of my career. In the music realm, if I'm writing music or arranging something or trying to record something, I know too many times in the past I would just like, oh, I'm not quite ready to play that, or I don't even know. I've wasted so much time. Just write something, right, and go back and fix it if you don't like it later. Or if you're recording something, just record it. And if you don't, listen to it, use your best judgment, and record it again. Right? It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. That's that's a fallacy that many believe about things that are creative, the arts. That people just the first time they do something, it's just perfect. It's just not how it works for most us human beings on the planet. Is we have to keep trying, right? We try something, no, don't like it. Try it again. Oh, that was horrible. Oh, that was close. Nope, that's not it. Okay, great. I'm a little closer. Okay, that's it, right? So it's a process like that for a lot of things. So he's talking about that same sort of approach with big projects at work. And then the last one is use momentum. So once you get, as I was saying, like once you get the ball rolling, then it starts to be easier to kind of just keep jumping in. So use momentum to your advantage by getting started, and start small and be willing to fail, and then just keep going. Right? That's his big thing. Okay, tip 31: stock up. This one I'm not going to say a whole lot about. He just basically, if you need things at your fingertips, a pen, if you need whatever kind of supplies you need, just make sure it's handy. Keep it stocked up, check it regularly. He talks about once a week or whatever. It all depends on your situation, what you use on a regular basis. If you're paperless, you probably don't need a lot of legal pads, right? But if you do use paper, right, well, make sure you got legal pads handy, and or maybe sticky notes that you want to do it for reminders or labeling things, or whatever it is that you need. Just have it on hand. Okay, so that's that. Tip 32, say no. Okay, and I've read this in a couple of books in this last month that I've been reading. So say no, and his big point is, like, I've heard a lot of people are saying now, which is no. Well, saying yes to everything means you're probably not going to be very good at much of it. Okay, so there's that. That's that side of that whole thing. But just remember, every yes, when you say yes to this thing, that's no to everything else you possibly could be doing instead. So yes isn't just like what's the yes isn't just being a good guy and helping out. Yes means you're saying no to all the other things you could be helping out, or taking care of yourself or your family or the other projects that you said yes to, whatever, right? So yes has a built-in no. It's not just yes, right? And a no also has a built-in yes. Like, you say no to that project, that's yes to everything else you're doing. So keep that in mind. Like, it's not, saying no is not necessarily a negative thing. If you truly cannot or are not willing to do whatever you're being asked, saying yes is not helping and not serving that person's request. So um you know that, right? And on that note, when you're saying no to somebody, it just says, be polite. Use polite explanations. And I would say, and I think he says this here too, but I would also say, keep it simple. You do not have to go into a 3-minute explanation of why you aren't going to or can't help out whoever. Just, I think it was another book I read, I know for sure. It was just, I appreciate the offer, but no, thank you. That's it, right? It was not, you didn't have to explain why, like, because of the, I really do appreciate you asking me. I do. I, no thanks. I'm not able to, I'm not able to do that right now. There you go. Right? That's it. It doesn't have to be mean. It doesn't mean like, well, of course I'm not going to do that. Right? Not that. Of course not that. Just no. But I appreciate it. I mean, thanks for thinking of me, really. But I can't say yes to that one. He also talks about making assertiveness a habit. So some people, and I've read this semi recently also, right? So being the doormat, just saying yes, or just acquiescing, or just whatever, right? When people ask you for things or ask you to do things or whatever, just like, okay, I guess, okay, sure, whatever. He says, no, 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 no. Look, your time is as valuable as anyone else's, and I don't think he said it exactly like that, but that's the way that assertiveness really helps your brain, is that you think, look, everybody's time is important. My time is equally as important as anyone else's time. This is what we have on the planet right now. This is it. So make sure that you use that wisely, right? And so when you're allowing others to dictate what you do, they're kind of dictating your life. So you have to be assertive and, really serve your your dreams, your goals in life, by saying yes and no to the things that make sense and are in line with those goals and dreams. So assertiveness is there. Okay, that's that one. Tip 33 is reflect. Okay, pretty short on this one, and this is a fairly common thing that a lot of productivity gurus talk about, which is you got to take time to just reflect on what's going on. You cannot just 24/7 everything, right? You got to take time to step away, get some perspective, recharge your batteries, however that works for you. Some people that's with others, some people that's by themselves, whatever. Just recharge, reset, reflect, right? So I'll just he's talking in the business world. So if you're going to go on vacation, if you're going to leave for a day, a week, whatever, leave with an empty desk, so you're not worried about what's there and it's not getting done. Get away and be away. So don't take work with you is kind of his thing there. Um, Short ones, take time to walk, think, pray, and be still. And or while you're away, do those things. Give yourself enough time. And then, so again, like, well, I'm going to take the afternoon off. Well, that may or may not be enough time to actually kind of let go of everything. So you might need a whole weekend. You might need 2 weeks, whatever, right? Depending on your situation. And then he talks about a pattern of reflection, and he says 3 hours a week and 1 day per month. So that is true. So I think on a regular basis, daily is good to sit down and kind of reflect on how the day went, if possible. And even if it's just 5 minutes, writing something down or recording something would be great. And then once a week, sitting down and saying, okay, what are my goals for the week? What am I going to get done? What's happening? I think those, similar to what he's saying, right? And then just the 1 day a month is good, right? Just a whole day to actually think about your life and where it's going and are you on track. Sounds crazy, but that's smart, actually. It's very, very smart. Something to consider. Okay, moving on. Tip 34, habit change. Now, this gets into another book I think I mentioned. Another one of the videos is called Atomic Habits. Excellent book. It's probably going to show up next year in my series here. But he talks, and what he writes down in this book is very similar to what that book talks about. So I'm just going to run it down, and this is just a list of things he says that somebody told him who used this list to help him lose weight. So here we go. Write down the habit you want to change. Actually write it down. List the pros and cons of that habit. What does it give you? What does it not give you? Or what does it take away from you? And then replace it. So don't just say, I'm going to quit doing X. I'm going to do this instead of X, is a much more efficient and, well, actually much more effective way to make that happen. And that's one of the key points in that other Atomic Habits book that I mentioned, that you have to replace it with something. Just stop is not how we're wired. We're doing machines, if you will. And so replacing is smart. Another one that is in both books is work at one habit at a time. Don't try to do 18 habits, even 4 habits, even 2. Work on one at a time, reestablish a new habit, get that ingrained, then move on to the next one. I don't know if it was in Atomic Habits, but another book I know I've read recently also that talks about, look, if you did 1 per quarter, right, every 3 months, because it takes about 90 days to lock in a habit. That actually is, starting to become more of the norm of when people talk about locking in habits. You can create a new habit, but to lock it in takes about 90 days. That's a quarter. That's the 3 months. If you did that every 3 months, you took on a habit. That's 4 habits you have completely changed in a year. Okay, that's actually a huge, huge shift in what most people do, which is try 4 or 5 and get none of them done, right? So 4 in a year sounds like, oh, only 4, but think about it. Changing 4 means you have 4 things that are highly productive in your life now. That's going to propel you way more than anything of just trying to do a whole bunch of different things not that well, right? So extremely important to think about it that way. Let's see. Create a clear plan. Break it down into steps. Ask for help. So try to get an accountability partner or somebody that's going to partner up with you to do the activity you're trying to do. If you're going to the gym, find somebody to go to the gym with, etc. Something like that. And then reward the target behavior. So when you do what you're supposed to, treat yourself with something that's not going to get in the way of the habit, but just treat yourself with something that reward yourself somehow, and it should be requisite, right? So if you're going to go to the gym and work out every day, you go 1 day for half an hour, that's not the time to reward yourself with a new house, right? It's just completely out of whack. It's got to kind of equate with the amount of effort to some degree. In your mind, it's got to equate. Keep it in top of your mind. So write notes, put them up everywhere, tell yourself all the time, this is what I'm changing. Remove any distractions. Right? So if it's business related, right, try to get rid of things that are just always distracting. If you're trying to stay focused at work, get rid of all the alerts. That's kind of his example. Make it fun, right? Try to work it out with people and make it a game somehow, and then think long term, right? So again, kind of thinking about in terms of like, over the year, if I were to change this, how would my life change long term? Right? Write that down and think about that. Okay. It's enough on that. And then the last one is tip 35, and that is people first. So he didn't write a lot about this one. He just said, look, relationships are the point to this whole thing. And I wanted to pause a little bit also here. The same sort of point I wanted to make is this month has been about being efficient with things, and it has been a lot about like to-dos and clear your clutter and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But really, that's trying to do is make you efficient so that you have more time for people, to work with clients, to find more clients, to work with your coworkers, to build more business, whatever, right? So it's not about just being efficient and then saying, okay, I'm good, that's it. It allows you to have more time and space actually to be working with people, and you can work on being effective with people and or have more time for yourself, right? So even though the productivity side of things tends to be very task oriented and sort of ignores the people part, he does put, at the end, he says, look, people are important, relationships are kind of the thing. And business is all about relationships. Life is about relationships. So he's totally right on. It is about people. And if you've got your productivity, so to speak, like your things that you're doing efficiently handled, you have more time for those other intangible relationship type things. Sorry. So he didn't want to leave the book without saying something along those lines, and I'm glad he did, because that is very important. And I know for me, I tend to think very task oriented and kind of like tunnel vision, doing my thing. That's good. It's good to know, like, no, you've got to remember it is about relationships. So anyway, thanks for checking this out. That is the book, The Daily Edge. Now, for next month, we're still gonna, even though we're talking about relationships, I hope you come live. I do want people to come in live and share their thoughts about books. So if you want to get started on next series, we're going to start up on the first Monday in October of 2020 is when this is. And we're going to do another short, this is another very, very even shorter read than the previous month. And it's Secrets for Getting Things Done, right, by Vincent Harris. So these are strategies to take your productivity to the next level. And it's another very quick kind of tip. Each chapter is a tip, and then here's my thoughts on it. So it's again pretty quick read. There are 25. Just look to make sure I got the right number. So there's 25. He calls them strategies, right? So these are strategies to take your productivity to the next level. So he's got 25 strategies to help with your productivity. So definitely in line with the theme of efficient with things. And so we'll kick that off next week. So if you have any comments, if you have any thoughts for me, books that I should consider on the series, or questions, please get a hold of me. My email, kfurman@e3lc.net, or leave me a comment. And also, if you do like what you're seeing, feel free to subscribe and let me know, again, what would help you in this series. What kind of books would you be looking for, or how can we do this? And it will be much more interactive with other people. So as soon as we've got some people in, we'll throw them in the mix and we can all discuss the book and share stories and insights about what we're reading. But for now, that's it. Those are my thoughts, and I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time.